Hey guys, welcome to Fantasy Effect episode 75. We got some training camp buys or sells. If you guys like the show, please like, comment, and subscribe if you don't mind. Thank you very much. I got Howler and McSpanky with me tonight. I'm just rambling on there. How's it going, guys?
Good, man. Oh, you're doing great. But so this time tomorrow we have real life actual NFL football gonna be played. It's not always the greatest product in the world, but it is football, and I'm not gonna complain about it.
Right.
So stoked.
I'll start complaining halfway through the first quarter.
Almost as stoked as how I was last Saturday after Rams camp. I got some Puka and Kyron signatures.
Hey-o.
It's gorgeous.
It was a fun time. I felt like a little kid again. It was awesome. I have some later. We'll talk about. I think you put Whittington on there. He looks pretty good. We'll talk about him a little bit.
Yes, we will.
Overall, though, like I went before pads went on, and next year I'm gonna go after like pads, so I'll remember that. It's like it was cool, but just the defense didn't really do anything. Everybody in offense looked good. Even Tutu Atwell looked good. So everyone just looked good.
That's where Tutu shines. Is the pads come on.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, Puka had a really couple nice catches. Cooper Kupp had a couple nice catches. So they still did, what they do. But it was a lot of fun.
Sure. Well, should we pop into the news a little bit here? We got a whole ton of stuff today.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. We have some contract extensions that went through. We had DJ Moore get a contract extension, 4 years, $82.6 million guaranteed. That's about $27.5 million AAV, and that is good for 7th in the league. AJ Brown got a new deal. That's 3 years, $84 million guaranteed, $32 million AAV, and that is right behind Justin Jefferson. And Jordan Love got a big old deal. 4 years, $160.3 million, $55 million AAV. That is tied for the highest in the league with Thiel and Joe Burrow. And Tua also got paid as well. 4 years, $167.1 million guaranteed, $53.1 million AAV as the 4th highest in the league for Tua. What do you guys think about these contracts? Are these players worth these contracts?
Jordan Love, yes. AJ Brown, yes. DJ Moore, yes. Tua, probably.
TBD with Tua?
Yeah, and it's hard because he does everything you want in that system, right? I don't know how successful he would be outside of a kind of a Shanahan tree, but that's what he plays in. So I mean, good for him, right?
Right.
It also is. We'll see what he is like after Tyreek Hill is no longer there with him. Let's see if he can bring receivers along. Right now, he's still in that kind of stage where the receivers are carrying him, which is fine. But if you're paying him all that money, you kind of want him to step up and lead the offense rather than just being part of it. But we shall see. But I mean, that's the thing too, is the easiest thing to do in the NFL, right, is get worse at quarterback. So, you have a competent one and two, you kind of got to pay him. And then, if you think about it this way, Daniel Jones, when he got paid, was it $40 million a year? Was it 2 years ago? Now he's the 17th highest paid quarterback. So he's now that contract doesn't look terrible, right?
Right.
And so I assume we'll be talking similar things in a few years with Tua's contract, right? So.
Yeah. So, I mean, I was looking at what we had here on the notes. It's so tied for the first highest was Jordan Love. Tua is the 4th highest. T-Law, that seemed to me the worst contract. I mean, kind of nitpicking, but is T-Law, right? I think if I were to rank them, I'd go Burrow, Jordan Love, Tua, then T-Law. And I think it might be 3A, 3B with Tua and T-Law. But yeah, I think that's just kind of how much money you have to pay a quarterback these days. It seems like a lot of money, but I think as the salary cap is increasing, you don't want to start over, right? And so we know Tua is competent, we know T-Law is competent, but we don't know if they can take them to the next level. Even Jordan Love, he played really, really well, but can he take them to a Super Bowl? That's still to be determined, right?
I think
but I think, I agree with that. But I think you have to pay the quarterback first, or else you're going to just keep, resetting with a new quarterback. So I think all these contracts are basically what you have to do. I think DJ Moore is like quietly one of the best wide receivers. Definitely top 8. So he definitely deserves that money. And then same with AJ Brown. You know, we've crapped on the Eagles so much, but to me, AJ Brown's a really, really good wide receiver. I more have issues with Jalen Hurts and their coaching staff. So again, I think AJ Brown earned that money as well. You know, CD and I think CD and what's his name are going to come next.
Yeah. I just want to just mention the Lions real fast and real quick. How smart did they look paying everybody before everybody else got paid? Oh my goodness! Because now everybody's down to like 3rd, 4th, and 5th on their respective lists. So that's what getting in early does for you, Jerry.
Yep, and then they're going to be like, "Oh, I want to have more money than him or whatever," right? So you're thinking like, if
it's always
AJ
a one-off second.
Exactly. Jamar Chase is going to need 33, 34 million per year. It's like, okay, these guys are, you know, and then CD, same thing. He's going to need more than that because I'm sure CD and Jamar Chase think they're both better than AJ Brown, which they are. But, you know, just
they're definitely younger.
It's a lot of money, but I think it's well deserved. All those guys.
I agree. Okay.
Do you have any concern about Jordan Love just only playing the 1 year and getting all that money? Like, I know he's been in the league for about 4 now, but do you have any
I keep hearing a lot of people mentioning that like he only played really well for like the back half of last season, which, you know, is probably what you want to see, you know, in paying your quarterback. But like we said, not to crap on the Raiders here, but I'm going to crap on the Raiders here a little bit, McSpanky. That if you don't have your quarterback paid, you wind up having to pay, you know, Gardner Minshew and see what Aiden O'Connell can give you. It's just the best example I can give you right now.
It's
or your Derek Carr in New Orleans. You know, it's I can't go with
Yeah, or Daniel Jones even for that matter. Like he's already paid, but that contract looked terrible. And I think Jordan Love is so much better than Daniel Jones, right? And so I think there is a little bit of reserve, but the way the landscape of the NFL is, you have to pay that quarterback, or else, like I said earlier, you're going to have to reset it, right? So I think Jordan Love kind of put his time in, right? It's hard when you have Aaron Rodgers ahead of you. Like they're not going to just throw it. They're not going to say, no, we're going to start with Jordan Love, right? So I think he earned it by waiting, learning, getting better every year. And I think we saw, and I think for him getting better and having the best games in the back half of the season is just, I think it took time for him to be in those NFL games every week in, week out. And I think that's what we're going to see more of with Jordan Love.
We also aren't privy to the day-to-day, you know, interactions with Jordan Love. You know, how is he as a person? Is this somebody you want to, like, you know, is he somebody you want to pay? Is he a leader of your team? This, that, the other. You know, these are all questions that can also come into your quarterback play as well. Like they didn't have to put in a homework assignment for Jordan Love in his clause or anything like that. So
they took that out of Kyler's.
Well, after everybody made fun of him for it.
Yeah, it's fair.
I mean, how much the majority of people hate Aaron Rodgers is, I think he did Jordan Love right he learned from Aaron Rodgers and everything, right? And I think there's still a little bit that the majority of people don't like, but overall Jordan Love is day in, day out a really good player, and we see, I think that's why he got his money.
Yeah, I think at worst he probably, like, worst case scenario, probably hovers like above average quarterback play for his career.
Totally.
You know, it might not be MVP level seasons, but you're never going to be like, oh my God, he's falling apart. Is kind of where I think about him. You know, and next year he could totally prove us all wrong, and he can go to MVP levels or whatever and prove me wrong. But you know, that has yet to.
And I think if he does that with, like, obviously the wide receivers are solid, but he doesn't have a proven wide receiver one. So if he does it with all those weapons, like, you know, in quotations weapons, I think for that, like he is a top 10 quarterback for sure.
Yeah, I did hear some people kind of throw a little bit of questioning because, you know, the big thing right now is being able to use that rookie quarterback contract to build that team around them, like the 49ers and Brock Purdy, early Patrick Mahomes career. early Josh Allen, bringing in Steph Diggs for him and being able to pay, their defense. The Packers aren't going to really be afforded that situation with Jordan Love because they basically got him cheap for 1 year, and now they have to pay him, and they can't really build out on other parts of the ball.
To be fair, they have one of the cheapest offenses against the cap right now.
Sure.
Like all of their receivers, like Christian Watson, Jaden Reed, Dubs, Dontavian Wicks, and then the 2 tight ends they just drafted, they're all on rookie contracts. And so is Marshawn Lloyd. Like their entire offense is basically a rookie contract outside of Josh Jacobs, Love now, and then some of their offensive linemen. So
Sure.
I mean, they don't get to build on a rookie quarterback contract, but they have the luxury of everywhere else. They have just rookie.
That's fair.
Rookie money. So,
that is fair. You guys want to do some injury updates?
Let's do it.
Okay. Rashad Bateman hurt again. John Harbaugh claims he did come back today. Claimed it wasn't serious. Okay, cool. Juwan Johnson is working off to the side. I saw nothing really in practice yet or anything like that. I don't know. He's probably losing his job at Taysom Hill anyway. First day in pass for the 49ers, Ricky Pears was, on the field. So that's really great news for him. I was kind of nervous about that one myself. Ty Johnson injured at Bills camp. You may wonder why the hell we care about Ty Johnson being injured at Bills camp. Well, what this does is it opens the door for Ray Davis, who Ty Johnson was his main competition in taking that RB2 role throughout camp up until this point. Doesn't mean they won't bring in another body possibly, but it does open things up for Ray Davis and give him a little bit of a leg up on whoever they could possibly bring in there. He's already been in the playbook. He's been in camp, this, that, the other. I think that helps him out. Isaac Guerrero has a hamstring. He's out for several weeks for the 49ers. I wasn't really into that guy. I know it's a San Francisco running back, but they're pretty deep at running back right now. Probably the deepest San Francisco's been for a while at running back.
I don't think any of them are good outside of CMC.
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus.
I mean, there's Elijah Mitchell.
They have a lot of bias.
I think Elijah Mitchell is pretty solid in the Shanahan system because he put together a really good year his rookie year. He just can't stay healthy. We'll talk about Jordan Mason later. And I just think he's got more of an uphill climb than we normally see in San Francisco pre-CMC. It was usually whoever was healthy was the guy you wanted. Roman Wilson was hurt and carted off the field. We'll also talk about Roman Wilson a little bit later. It's an ankle sprain. He should be ready for the season, but they're going to ease him back in too.
I think that's, in my opinion, that's pretty big, right? They didn't really have a wide receiver too, and I thought he could really elevate himself throughout the camp and everything. We'll talk. I don't want to take everything away from later, but I think that's pretty big in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. You guys ready to get into the training camp stuff?
Let's do it.
Let's go.
All right. One of the biggest questions I had that kind of spawned the whole idea a little bit. I know, probably everybody's doing this content right now of what are the training camp blurbs, but we saw a lot of tweets from Jaguars beat writers just crapping on T-Law, the offense as a whole, the wide receivers can't catch, this, that, the other. It was looking pretty bad. I think over the past couple of days, it's kind of calmed a little bit. It's looking like maybe it's leveled off at least for the Jaguars. Mm-hmm. But I think what we didn't really think about, or what I didn't think about going into it when I'm seeing all these terrible, offensive things, Trevor Lawrence has got 2 brand new wide receivers in this offense with him. They're learning each other, trying to grow rapport with each other. And Gabe Davis, Brian Thomas Jr., who's a rookie. We know what Gabe Davis is. He's kind of boom or bust anyway. So seeing him boom bust in practice shouldn't be all that surprising to us. I think maybe could use a little bit more patience with the Jaguars offense, but I'm not all the way bought in. I'm a little bit just wavering back and forth, basically.
Yeah, I think the reason for concern, because it's not uncommon, right, for like the first week or two of practice for the defense to kind of have a leg up on the offense, just because generally speaking, the offense, if they're breaking in new receivers or new quarterback, they're still working through some stuff, whereas the defense can kind of get more cohesive quicker. That said, like the reason for concern here is the whole Doug Peterson thing. Like his offenses in Philadelphia just got worse and worse the longer he was there and put his thumbprint on the organization. And now you're kind of wondering, like, these are basically his guys that he brought in outside of Trevor Lawrence. So is this a similar thing or regression? Like, do you guys remember that Jacksonville, was it like, I want to say like mid-November last year, they were the 1 seed in the AFC playoff race, and then they went on just a crazy streak of losing. I think they went like 1-7 down the stretch and missed the playoffs. So there's legitimate concern, I think, with some of these early reports that the Jaguars are struggling.
And I remember last year, I think it was in August, we did a season preview, and I picked the Jags to. I think I picked them to go to the AFC Championship, and they just tailed off.
Looked good for a while.
Absolutely terrible.
They did.
So I think that's honestly more what we're going to see is that second half Jaguars. Funny thing though, I was trying to throw some notes on the show notes, and I just typed in Jaguars camp, and today it was like the greatest day ever for everybody today. So
I know it. I know.
Of course.
I know it takes time and whatnot, but I don't know. I just what we've seen from Doug Peterson, I just think what we saw at the end of last year is more going to be the Jaguars, and I think what's his name is going to be okay. Trevor Lawrence is going to be okay, but I think the main guy that I will be okay with, like starting week in week out, is ETN and Christian Kirk,
Ingram. The one guy that sorry, Ron, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I'm going to. The one guy that I'm a little concerned that I haven't seen really anything about is Brian Thomas. Good or bad, like he's just not there. Like today, we're getting Marvin Harrison Jr., we're getting Malik Neighbors. Oh, did he go?
Of course,
today?
Of
course.
He caught a pass today. Yes.
Okay. Well, that's exciting for him, but not like what we're seeing from some of these other rookies that are just like electric on the field. Like we had like Xavier Worthy highlights like day one every day.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. We had Malik Neighbors. It seems like every time I load Twitter, he's doing something crazy.
Yes,
and even Marvin Harrison Jr. has been looking awesome. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So then you just have Brian Thomas, and you're just kind of like, is he doing? Is he playing? Is he okay? Like I guess he caught something today, but I mean, I'm nervous about Brian. I wasn't very high on him to begin with, and now I'm thinking that. I mean, it might be an early victory lap, but I'm thinking maybe he wasn't. Maybe he is kind of the more raw prospect and the one who maybe went higher than he should have.
Yeah. And I think
big man run fast you can get away with in college. Big man run fast, everyone in NFL run fast.
Yeah. And I don't know if it's a combination of him and landing in Jacksonville and that coaching staff. But I think I was a little bit higher on him in the beginning, and then as more things shook out, I was like cooled off a little bit. I'm kind of in the middle with him. I think he can be like, he's a different wide receiver than Christian Kirk, so I think he can be their wide receiver like 1A, 1B. But I think it's going to take time, and unfortunately, I think he just didn't land in the greatest spot.
So I just pulled up Brian Thomas. Sorry, go ahead. No, finish your thought.
I just want to push back on the Jaguars' mid-season fail just slightly, a little bit. Go back a little bit into the conversation. I think Thiel dealt with a pretty severe ankle sprain throughout that time frame. He also lost his number one target in Christian Kirk in that time frame as well, and that's what pretty much derailed their season in my eyes. I think they probably still make the playoffs if Kirk and Thiel stay healthy. How far they go after that, I don't know that they go very far against Houston. Yeah. If they drew the Ravens or the Chiefs, like I think they probably get slaughtered in all of those games, to be honest with you. But yeah, I think they had some bad injury luck there by the end of the season.
Yeah, they definitely did it, and that didn't help. What I was gonna just bring up real quick is Brian Thomas Jr. Over the last week since training camp started, and he's been getting negative blurbs or just no blurbs at all. He's dropped basically from like wide receiver like 23, 24 on Dynasty Daddy all the way down to wide receiver 30. So there's definitely
you can't trade him.
You're already seeing market tanking from him, which is a little concerning.
I've been trying to trade him for a month now. I drafted like 5 shares because I was under the impression, gets this first round draft capital. There's going to be some sort of hype. There's going to be somebody in your league that, is at least going to like the idea of what Brian Thomas Jr. can bring to your fantasy team. Yeah. That has not been the case. I don't know if I'm aiming too high. I mean, of course I can go too low and get it done, and then I can become a meme, at that point. But I'm just not ready to go totally low, on Brian Thomas Jr. I'm not going to QJ him at this point.
Yeah.
Oh, God, I hope not.
Yeah.
Speaking of QJ, my goodness.
Here. He needs
catch up cold.
If anything, I think he's regressed the mean a little bit with Brian Thomas Jr., right? I think that's more where he should be, wide receiver 30-ish.
Probably.
Until right. And so I think it's hard to trade when there's kind of, I don't want to say negative, but like a negative connotation with him right now, and there's not much hype per se. And so right now you're gonna take a loss if you're trying to move him now. And I think you just hold him and wait and see.
So I just pulled up some trades. He's being tossed around as like a throw-in on some of these deals. Like Tyreek Hill went for a 25-1 and 26-1 and Brian Thomas Jr. So it seems like basically 2 1s for Tyreek, and then you get some BTJ. CeeDee Lamb for Bijan Robinson and Brian Thomas. Like it feels like he's just getting this, like, here, take this dude.
Wow. Get him off my roster. Jeez Louise. It's not only Ron then, huh? Man, oh man.
It's not, yeah.
You guys want to talk about Malik Neighbors?
Yes, let's do it.
Dude, there's like 6 highlights a day about Malik Neighbors doing something freaky. Maybe he has to do a lot of freaky things to get those passes from Daniel Jones. I don't think it's going to matter. I've heard that they're getting that ball out of Daniel Jones' hands as fast as they possibly can and getting Malik Neighbors into the open field where he can really go to work there. I'm excited to see this rookie season for sure.
Dude, if Neighbors stays healthy, like, he's realistically getting so much of that offense, he could be the wide receiver 1 this season. And I don't think that's too hyperbolic to say that. Like he's a freak, dude. Like the way he moves and runs his routes in his hands, like he's insane. It almost doesn't matter if Daniel Jones sucks or not. Like if you can just get it near him, he's so good. And there's not much else.
It's
there
almost like he
took.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh no, I was just saying, like, there's not much else there to really combat him for targets.
Yeah, I was going to pull up the depth chart, but it's almost like he pulled all the coverage away from a certain other wide receiver and just left him all the easy work. You know what I mean?
Is that a dig at Brian Thomas?
It is. For context on that depth chart, it's Darius Slayton, Wan'Dale Robinson, Jalen Hyatt. The rest of them...
Honestly, Hyatt looks pretty good too, from what I've seen.
I've seen him catch a couple balls too deep, and that's kind of what he did in college as well from Hendon Hooker. So I wouldn't be shocked to see Jalen Hyatt kind of pop up a little bit further on this depth chart than where they have him behind Darius Slayton at this point in time. It could be only a matter of time there. We'll see. But I have a little bit of Hyatt lurking around. But really, this all just leans to, can Daniel Jones support anything more than Malik Neighbors running slants?
I don't know if he needs to for Neighbors to be good.
That's fair.
I was going to say, yeah. Because I just think the sheer volume, like, get the ball to your best player. And I think the coaching staff knows, like, hey, get Malik Neighbors the ball. They don't like they have an okay running back, but he's not great. They don't really have a tight end, outside of Jalen Hyatt. They don't have anybody. So I just think the sheer volume is all going to be going to Malik Neighbors.
You put some respect on Theo Johnson's name and his 9.9 score.
Yeah, I
wish Daniel Jones wasn't the quarterback to find out about more of these weapons. Go ahead.
Hold on. I don't want to come across as the Daniel Jones defender, because that's a dangerous place to be. But like who has he had to throw the ball to? I mean, they've had Saquon Barkley on that offense, but like, who's been his receivers? Darren Waller was hurt all last year, and at the tail end of his career, the receivers he's been throwing to have been like Wan'Dale Robinson, who's also hurt. I think they had a Kadarius Toney there, Daniel Jones year, who we know he's a head case. Like he doesn't. Darius Slayton has been like his best wide receiver, which frankly, Darius Slayton shouldn't be starting in the NFL. Like, no disrespect, he seems like a good dude, but like, I mean, think about how poorly Josh Allen did before he got Stephon Diggs and some of his receivers. Like, I don't think it's fair to run Daniel Jones fully through the mud just yet. Like, if he still sucks, and with Malik Neighbors, who I think is a legit like wide receiver one in the NFL, then we can kind of write the books closed on Daniel Jones. But I think he's going to have a nice bounce back year. Is all I'm saying. I think
we're on the last page of the Daniel Jones chapter is where we are. The last page of it.
Totally.
This is it right here.
But then there's a part 2.
There's a part 2.
So I think if
in New Orleans,
if he can get the ball to Malik Neighbors, I think he's going to be an okay, quarterback too. And I think I completely agree. He has not really had anybody to throw the ball to. Saquon, you can throw the ball to him a bit, but that's not really his like the biggest thing he does, right? And so having Malik Neighbors is just going to be incredible, I think, for Daniel Jones. And I don't know. I think this year it's going to be a little bit shocking.
Daniel Jones is free, by the way, if you wanted to take a shot.
Yes, I was working
basically
on
any second round pick. He's yours. And there's risk with Daniel Jones. Don't get me wrong. Like, I don't want to like make it sound like he's gonna have a fantastic year, because he has one of those contracts that has like the injury clause in it. So if the Giants want to move on from him, they can't unless he is fully healthy. It's the same thing that Derek Carr had and Russell Wilson had that led to both of them being benched the final like couple weeks of the season, just so that the team could protect themselves from them getting basically financially stuck. So there is a possibility that if the Giants suck and their team doesn't look that great, that they could bench Daniel Jones and just say like, hey, we're gonna take a quarterback in the draft.
Drew Lock,
and it's
lock it up,
pop, lock, and drop
it up, baby.
Let's go.
Yeah. Since we're on the Giants, I just jumped ahead a little bit on the sheet here. Theo Johnson, we did mention him a little bit. I said Holler needs to put some respect in that man's name. He may never catch a pass, but it is an empty tight end room, and he's already taking first team reps above Daniel Bellinger, and he just came off the PUP list with a hip injury. So if you want to get in early before, possibly a quarterback does show up there and the hype gets all crazy, now would be your time to try to acquire Theo Johnson. And you could probably get him as throw-ins right now as well, especially in 2 PPR 1.75 if you just want a deep stash on your bench there.
Yeah, we can. And we're going to see.
Like Theo Johnson. Sorry, go ahead, Holler.
I was just going to say, we're going to see if he can do anything, right? Because he only has to beat out Daniel Bellinger, and if he can't do that, then we know he's kind of nobody, right? And so I think, I think we're gonna see if Theo Johnson is anything, right? And so if he is something though, then he's gonna probably be unattainable price wise.
Yeah.
He probably will be higher than I'm willing to pay at that point. But luckily, I drafted all mine in like the 4th round of rookie drafts this past season.
Yeah, I don't have as much as. Unfortunately, him and Malik Neighbors, like I don't have as many as I'd like, but
So sorry, I thought you were finishing.
I thought he froze.
So that brings me back to my point about Malik Neighbors, which was I loved the talent coming out of LSU, and then I hated the draft spot, and I kind of faded him quite a bit in drafts, and now I'm kind of getting some major regrets, right? So a lesson learned a little bit there for next year. Just because you like a landing spot doesn't go exactly the way you want, don't completely fade them, because some of these elite talents, it doesn't matter, right? Like they're gonna be good. The talent rises, and so I think that was my bad.
Same can be said.
That was for sure a miss.
Well, Brock Bowers, I think.
Yes, another lessons learned there. He's apparently, dude, they're just raving about him. Everything I hear from Raiders camp is, oh my God, Max Crosby just destroyed their offensive line, or man, Brock Bowers is fast and he's a bad man. So we'll see what happens. But
yeah.
So Wes is asking, that's what I was going to say too. Wandale. Yeah. Who takes the slot receiver? Like who's actually going to get the slot role? It's going to be Wandale.
Yep.
Which I think that slot role will be a little bit more valuable with having Malik Neighbors playing there, just because now you actually have a legit like weapon you have to guard against, and so some of that underneath stuff, and especially if Jalen Hyatt can become something and he can stretch the field too, like then Wandale actually has a pretty decent role. He has to stay healthy though too. He's been banged up. He's good though when he's on the field. It's just
I remember
not very often.
A couple weeks ago on Dynasty Theory. Coach Dan was talking about Wandale as one of his guys, and I think, that's warranted. I think out of the slot he's going to get some run.
Super deep. Yeah, he's going late. Okay, you guys want to get? You guys want to predict the weather here?
Let's do it.
Xavier Leggett. He's out there giving out weather reports and stuff. Honestly, he is super funny, man.
He's hilarious.
There's a couple other. I don't know if that's the same interview, but they were like asking him these goofy questions. He's like, I can't do the math on that, and I was like, I feel you on that.
And then, how he, and then how he said February was just out of this world. So funny. I hope the guy's good because he's easy to root for.
Yeah, he really.
He looks good so far. Like him and Neighbors, dude. I swear, I keep opening up Twitter and I just see another thing of him just like going, making some ridiculous catch or just giving a funny interview. But
I'm right there with you on this about Xavier Leggett, like in the ridiculous catches and stuff. But like, it's just rave reviews for Jonathan Mingo, and apparently Mingo is running ahead of Xavier Leggett. Like that's what the reports are, weird. Even though with all the highlights. Yeah, because I kind of thought Mingo was dead to the world. Like I hadn't thought about Jonathan Mingo probably since rookie drafts last year. But man, what do you guys think? Are you believing this hype with Mingo, or do you think that's a lot of coach speak? Yeah,
I think a little bit of both, but I think too, like I think it's fair to give like Bryce Young and Mingo. I think it's fair to give them a little bit of a pass for last year's because of how bad the coaching staff was in that situation. It was awful.
Yep. Everything.
And so I think we can kind of just give them a kind of not a blank slate totally, but a little bit of a fresh eye here and just see what they do. But Mingo's one I'm interested to see. I think this Panthers offense could be surprisingly pretty decent. I think Dave Canales runs a good system. I think he knows how to get his guys open. I think Deontay Johnson's gonna feast in this offense. But I think Mingo and Leggett and the running backs, I think all can kind of have a nice like supplemental role. I don't know how well they're gonna do for fantasy, but I mean Mingo I think he could have weeks where he's useful. The same with Leggett. Like I think he might have some of those. I mean, that's how he was at South Carolina. Like he would just have he would do nothing, or he'd have 4 catches for 170 yards and 2 touchdowns because he just torched people. And I could see it happening here too.
Yep. And then I like Jatavion Sanders a lot. I don't know how much he's going to be, a fantasy relevant tight end. But I think if you were to get a couple touchdowns, and get some yards, I think he can really be into the top 15 of tight ends, which we know how bad the after top 10 are. I think it's possible that he could be there. And so there are a lot of, Wes brought up Thielen, and there are a lot of, sounds like there's a lot of guys now there in Carolina, but I think, it's just going to take time. And I think we'll see it's in, in the pecking order. I think it's going to be Deontay Johnson, and then I think Xavier Leggett or Jonathan Mingo. And then I think Thielen's going to get his here and there, right? Because Thielen was one of Bryce Young's favorite targets all of last year. And so, I think that's still going to be there. But I don't think it's going to be as much because there's more people. And I think Deontay Johnson's going to be the one that Bryce Young is going to be there. And so I think this year, the biggest thing is going to be we can see who Bryce Young is going to be. Right. If he can't get better this year, then we know I think it's done for him.
I think Adam Thielen too. He's really good in the red zone. He's a really good route runner. I don't know how much athleticism he has left in the tank, but I think he can still be a nice, reliable target for Bryce Young.
Yeah.
Whether it's on third downs or in the red zone. I don't think he's going to be like quite the dude he used to be, which is fine. But I think he's going to be a useful piece for that offense. Maybe not.
He's going off the board at wide receiver 84.
I was not saying like
if you want to take your shot at wide receiver 84, Adam Thielen, I would be like, oh yeah, man, why not? Yeah. The wily vet scores a few touchdowns and he becomes a flex play.
Right.
Yeah,
exactly.
Totally. I don't know, and Wes, I don't know if it's going to take 3 years for Ja'Tavion Sanders because there really isn't anybody else there in Carolina. But I don't think
Tommy
he's
Tremble.
Come out of the
How
gate.
dare you?
Ooh, the trembling.
Sorry, Coach Dan, but I don't think he's going to come out of the gate going crazy. So I think it's just going to take some time. And like I said, he could be a top 15, 12 to 15 or even 15 to 18 tight end if he gets a couple touchdowns and around 500 yards maybe if that.
Mm-hmm.
I think,
and then you're going to get
next year is going to be more useful. For
exactly.
You.
And where he was going in rookie drafts, I think he was going a lot in the third, sometimes in the second, depending on if it's two tight end or whatever. But a lot of times when I got him, it was always in the third, and so I feel like that's a good like place to get him. And I think it'll take some time, but I think he's going to be a good tight end.
I hadn't thought about Ja'Tavion Sanders honestly a whole lot until this conversation. There's not been any. I was going to ask, have there been any reports or anything like that? Because I know that you like
really.
So you would know if there's stuff going on.
I haven't seen much. I looked when I was going through the show notes, and there wasn't much. But I just wanted to touch on it because there's not really anybody else there.
Right.
So I think.
And
he's a very
Theo Johnson.
Yeah, he's very, very athletic as well, like with Theo Johnson, and so I think it's a possibility.
Yeah, he was good in the Texas offense for sure. Also, Canales is in love with the way that Chuba Hubbard is running the ball. I think he's going to be a solid option for volume.
Yeah.
Wow.
I think it's crazy too.
While we wait for Jonathan Brooks, but there has been no mention of Miles Sanders either. There was like
he might get cut, dude.
There's an early blurb, and Rashad Penny retired today. He was also in Carolina as well. But also, hold on just a second. I wanted to.
Honestly, so looking at this while you're pulling up your thought, Chuba Hubbard, Jonathan Brooks, Miles Sanders, Raheem Blackshear are the four running backs that are kind of in Carolina. Well, Raheem Blackshear he returns kicks and punts for them and plays special teams. So as soon as Jonathan Brooks is healthy, Miles Sanders doesn't really have a roster spot unless they want to carry four, which I don't really see.
I don't see it.
Teams don't. Yeah.
Right. Hubbard is going off the board at running back 48 right now as well. So if I'm going to get running back one volume at running back 48.
Wow. Let's calm
running
down.
back 48.
I'm
Brooks isn't coming in there immediately.
Yeah. And
no.
All I was going to say is I'm more surprised
Give me 4 games.
Really? It's possible.
Of Chuba. But I could see 4 games.
I was just going to say I'm more surprised that Miles Sanders hasn't gotten cut yet. I think they're just keeping him around as a body just because of Jonathan Brooks. But I think it's going to be like I also saw that Tyler Algier is loved in Atlanta. He's going to be used a lot. But really, is he going to be? And so I think I'm not saying Jonathan Brooks is Bijan, right? But what I'm saying is, how the NFL is, there's 2 running backs now. There's not just one. And so I think you got to talk up Chuba because he's going to be the beginning of the first couple of years. And so there's no way Canales is going to come out and say Chuba Hubbard sucks, right? And so I just think it's kind of the same thing as Tyler Algier, in my opinion. And yes, unfortunately, I think Algier is going to be cutting into Bijan's work more than anybody wants. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, I think once they see Bijan in actual games, it's going to be hard to keep him off the field as much as they think they're going to use Algier.
So I'm not in love with Chuba by any stretch of the means here.
I feel like you are.
The reason I'm in love with Chuba is because he is running back 48 right now, and there's a possibility for a few weeks of that season, man, he's going to carry some pretty large workloads along. I mean,
that's fair.
It's hard not to look at the volume and be like, I could get behind that, as a flex play for sure. And at running back 48, man, he's easily acquirable.
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing with in that range is it's a lot of like backups and guys who were like second stringers. The only difference is like with Chuba is he's going to get volume at least early on, just because there's already an injury. It's not like I have to wait for the starter to get injured for this person to be useful. He's already going to get some carries, but by about week 8, he might just be useless, taking up a spot on your bench.
Sure, that's fine.
I mean, I don't know.
I think that's all baked into the price as well as where you're drafting him, And at that point, I'm hoping that somebody else on my roster can fulfill those Chuba points, because I don't think Chuba's coming out here putting up running back 1 numbers, maybe some low end running back 2 numbers on a good week or something along those lines. But that's it. That's maxed out Chuba right there.
Do you feel good starting him week 1?
In a flex spot, I'll be fine, I guess. Let's see where Jonathan Brooks is at. And it depends on how many starters in the league, too.
Okay, let's say it's start 11. And 2 running backs, 3 wide receivers, and some flex. You'd start them? I don't know if I can.
I hope not.
I'm a crazy person, but
I would be real sad about the state of my roster if I was starting Chuba Hubbard.
Yeah, that's where I'm at, too.
They can't all be winners. They can't all be winners.
That's fair. You got that right.
Yeah.
Okay, enough Chuba. Chase Brown's taking majority of the first team reps. We think the running back role is going to be pretty valuable in Cincinnati, just based off the offense, who plays quarterback to wide receivers. They're going to get tackled in the red zone every once in a while, and a running back's going to get to score for this team every once in a while. I've been on the Chase Brown side the entire time. You guys have been on the Zach Moss side the entire time. I do think Zach Moss has a role. And I think it's that between the 20s grinder on the goal line, fall into the end zone. I do think Chase Brown is the guy that can house a screen. He can, he's a little bit more electric than what Zach Moss is going to bring you.
He is, but I think Zach Moss is going to get the goal line work. He's a really good red zone runner, whereas I don't think Chase Brown that's really his role. I have this quote from Zach Taylor. I really like Zach Moss. Professional, detailed.
I really am a fan for that.
I wanted to really
let me clear my throat.
Listening. Yeah. So Zach Taylor's a fan. Really likes him. I think part of this is Zach Moss is kind of the newcomer to the offense, whereas Chase Brown's kind of the quote unquote incumbent, and so he kind of got first run with the first offense. I've been seeing a little bit more Zach Moss highlights coming in the last couple of days, so I think, or I just I can't let a good thing die, so it might just be me more than anything. But I really think Zach Moss is going to be a really good
I think he has a role for sure. I think he has a role for sure. I just don't know that it's going to be the one that you want out of the two of them. Is all.
That's the one I need.
Because I think that Chase Brown also has a future. They drafted Chase Brown. I don't remember the Zach Moss contract. I can't imagine it took much to get Zach Moss into town. Let me go find it.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I think he was pretty cheap. I think at the end of the day, it's like we saw Chase Brown last year being more of like the home run hitter. And then we saw Zach Moss last year in Indianapolis being, I know Jonathan Taylor was out, but we like some of it, but we saw him being more of the red zone guy. And then every down back guy. So I think that's we're going to see more of him in the red zone, in my opinion. And I don't really think overall Cincinnati is going to be running the ball very often. Obviously they're going to have to in the red zone inside the 20s, but I just think overall they're both going to be kind of, RB3 guys.
So here's my only pushback on that is that they didn't run the ball. They haven't run the ball well in years, but Joe Mixon's still been a running back 1 in that offense just because of how much they score, and they get a ton of. At least historically, they've been getting a lot of receivers are getting tackled inside the 5, then Joe Mixon punches it in, right? So there's been a ton of just rushing touchdowns there, and I think that's really why I'm high on Zach Moss. Is I think he's going to get those carries. Same as like Zeke Elliott. I don't think they're going to light the world on fire, but I think they're going to get enough touchdowns that they can be running back 2s, and you're getting them for running back 3 or 4 prices for the most part.
Yeah, there is a potential out in 2025 on Zach Moss. So
sure.
And I think for some reason I feel like the Jonathan Taylor backup position has been overstated as Zach Moss has finally arrived, and maybe more so Shane Steichen is a really good offensive coordinator, play caller, and I think maybe that plays into it a little bit. But we like the Cincinnati Bengals offense anyway, so it's probably a moot point, bringing that up with Steichen being a really good offensive coordinator and things along those lines. So I'm excited to see this one shake out. I don't know if we have a Zach Moss, Chase Brown bet, but we should probably bang one out.
Should
in
make
the,
one.
Yeah, definitely we should. I love losing bets to you guys.
Yeah, you do. You're so good at
it. I'm awesome at it. Okay, so out to LA in Hollers Land, we got Lad McConkey has been deemed the wide receiver one for the Chargers. Is anybody shocked by this revelation?
No. Well, especially because every other highlight you see is Quentin Johnson running wide open and dropping a ball that was perfectly handed in his lap from Justin Herbert. So I think if you can catch the ball in LA right now, you have a good chance to be
you have a good chance.
Especially Brendan Rice has looked really good too. I don't know if you guys have seen some of the drum beats going on Brendan Rice lately, but he's been making
bloodlines, baby, bloodlines.
Pretty good catches, and
I love his dad.
Exactly. Well, and he was pretty solid at USC last year. He was a 7th round pick. I think it's just because he doesn't play special teams, and they don't necessarily know if he's going to be a starter. But I mean, Quentin Johnson, that dude's dead, right? Like,
I think so.
He can't catch anything. He couldn't catch water from a boat. Like if someone splashed him, my God.
Like literally, this is the definition of being a physical freak, and not having the one last piece there.
And even the catches you do see, it's never with his hands. He tries to high point a ball, and he still lets it come into his chest. It's the weirdest thing. It's like
I can get my chest up here.
How have you gotten this far without being as a receiver without being able to catch the ball?
There's 100,000. You guys are playing college football right now. How many schools are on that dang thing? If you're
so many
6'5" and you can run 4.3 40, you get yourself a job. Here's a job. There's a job. There's tons of these dudes on basketball teams too that can't do anything for a lick, man, but they're over 7 foot.
And so I do remember when he was at TCU, right? And that team was solid that year, and I thought he was going to be really good.
The championship game.
I think so, yeah, if I remember correctly. And I think a lot of people thought he was going to be good. But man, ever since he's been in the NFL, just guy cannot catch the ball. And so, it's unfortunate, but I just don't. I think it's going to continue. I really do.
Wes. Put Wes on the screen.
Yeah.
He's talking about
Quentin Johnson.
If you're watching on YouTube, you hear the joke. You see the joke.
But
go ahead.
Lad McConkey, though, someone who actually is good. Like I think he's going to get used quite a bit in that offense. I think he's pretty clearly going to be the focal point when they pass the ball. Which I mean, which should be a decent amount when you have Justin Herbert. Like you're going to throw the ball. I think he's probably one of the best passers in the league, right? So, Lad McConkey, I am excited about. I think he was a guy that I think a lot of people are going to look back in a couple months and been like, man, I should have taken Lad McConkey instead of Brian Thomas Jr. And so we'll see how it plays out, but it's looking good so far.
I was all in on Lad. My Lad shares are dangerously high. I can't stand to acquire anymore. So
sure you can.
I mean, I could. I don't know.
Yeah, why not?
Could take it. His injury history does, creep into the back of my mind every once in a while. He hasn't always been the healthiest guy in the world.
Sure.
Hopefully that Jim Harbaugh, highest paid strength coach in the world, is gonna do wonders for Lad McConkey.
That guy's crazy.
And it may not pay dividends until next year, but it could get him in the program for a year, and maybe that health, steps up a little bit. Okay, let's move on to Sam Darnold real quick here. Just real quick, when do you guys see Sam Darnold giving up the job to JJ McCarthy?
Oh, I have two thoughts here. One, it may be over already, and it may be JJ McCarthy week 1. McCarthy's already running with the ones against the one defense. I would assume if it was really a Darnold thing, they wouldn't be giving McCarthy as many reps as they are with the first teamers. And every time you see a blurb about the Vikings, it's like, oh, here's another interception from Sam Darnold, or it's, man, JJ McCarthy lit up the first team defense in red zone drills. I think he was like 4 for 6 the other day with 4 touchdowns in red zone drills, whereas Darnold's have been very up and down, very shaky.
I saw that one. I think you have some JJ blinders on though, because I've seen a few errant picks into some double coverage from JJ.
Yeah.
In a few spots here or there. Not to throw too much shade at him.
We have those muted, so we don't see those.
Okay. I'd like to see that.
So
no, dude. Go ahead, Oliver.
I have a lot of JJ McCarthy as well, and I think I don't love him as much as Spanky, but I do like him a lot, right? And I think what we're hearing is like, oh, Sam Darnold's going to start, but I think it's more just he's a rookie, right? He needs to earn his way in, and so I think at the beginning of the season, I think JJ McCarthy is going to start at the end of the day. That's who it's going to be. So I just think it's going to take time. We've seen good stuff from both of them. We've seen bad stuff from both of them. I think we've seen more bad stuff from Sam Darnold.
And you shouldn't be seeing as many bad things as you are from Darnold. Like, that's the thing. Like, as a coach for the Vikings, like, McCarthy's your future. If you're going to get like bad play from either one of them, like, you'd rather take the rookie and let him learn. Whereas with Darnold, it's like, he's not like your upside. That's how you're going to get fired, right? Is starting Sam Darnold for too long. Whereas JJ McCarthy, the GMs and the fan base will give you a little bit of like leniency if he's not okay. And you spend a top 10 pick on this dude. Like, you can't keep him off the field for too long. And the other thought is their first 5 games. So the Giants, which, whatever, but then the 49ers, Texans, Packers, Jets, and then they have a week 6 bye. So if Darnold does start, it's very good possibility that the Vikings record is not good after those first 5 weeks. And then that's when they make the transition to McCarthy after the week 6 bye and let him.
That is my theory is JJ up until the bye. That's a murderer's row of defenses. And let's sacrifice Sam Darnold, who's already been sacrificed one time in his career. Let's not destroy JJ before he's even set foot on a field. And Kevin O'Connell does speak pretty highly of Darnold as well. So I think that they're going to give him every opportunity to go into a game and lose that job for himself. So he's going to have to, pull some pretty bad stuff, I think, in a game to lose that job. And the reason I think you see JJ McCarthy with the ones is because of the stuff you brought up, McSpanky, is he is your guy's future. Like, you want him to practice with the ones. At some point we're going to see him with the ones in a game for sure, this year, or you want him to be ready to play with those ones if, an injury does happen to Sam Darnold along the way here. And maybe Sam Darnold can, keep it together long enough in a really good Kevin O'Connell offense to, and JJ just gets to sit there and learn. There is a possibility. We saw Jared Goff resurrect a career.
There's a possibility of that. Jared Goff had way more success in LA than Sam Darnold ever has.
He did.
But I think I just
never had Adam Gase.
And just in that, Sam Darnold, I think, is going to have to be so much better than JJ McCarthy. Like, if it's close, they're just going to go JJ McCarthy, right? Like, there's no reason to play Sam Darnold if it's close. Like, I think Darnold needs to be significantly better to have him be the week 1 starter and to continue letting him play. Like, if it's even remotely close at all, like close to 50-50, I think they're just going to say, like, let the rookie get in there and play and let him learn, right?
Sure.
That's where I'm at too.
All fair. All right, our next quarterback battle. Russell Wilson versus Justin Fields. Wilson gets this calf strain, and all of a sudden Justin Fields is lighting up Steelers camp. I am terrified of any news that comes out of Steelers camp because you know what Kenny Pickett did all last year? He lit up Steelers camp. Where's Kenny Pickett now?
Yeah. He's in Philadelphia.
Okay, for a 7th round pick. I'm so nervous to I'm so nervous.
I threw this quote on here from that Schefter said, Wilson has the pole position at the moment, but Fields has opened some eyes within the Steelers franchise. Woohoo! So at the end of the day, I do think Wilson's going to start in the beginning of the season. But unfortunately, I think Russell Wilson's been so bad recently that we could see Fields sooner than later.
I think Fields is going to start at some point. I've kind of thought that for a while. I think it's just going to get sooner. It's getting pushed up further and further because Russ is already hurt. Russ hasn't been particularly impressive. But give me your thought, because I think we might make the same point. But
I think you're gonna. Yeah, I think so too. So the pushback is the trade compensation changes.
Yeah.
If he plays over whatever percentage of snaps, we've seen the Steelers be 9-8 team just on their defense and scoring 7 points a game on offense. So would it be the craziest thing in the world for Tomlin to just huff it all the way through until they get to past that threshold to just keep the trade compensation low?
Possibly, only because if you think Justin Fields gives you a better chance to win, and make the playoffs, I think there will be we can suck it up on a draft pick. The other thing I will say is Justin Fields has always looked pretty good in 7-on-7s and without pads, and when there's not a live pass rush. The problem's always been when there's he's gonna get hit and the pocket isn't clean for him. That's usually where he gets into trouble and makes stupid decisions. When he has a clean pocket, he can throw the ball as good as anyone, right? He can sling it. It's just his decision making's not great when
he's super athletic
things get dirty around him.
Hey, super athletic, and I think he leans onto that athleticism more than anything. And I think it's kind of the same thing as we kind of went into with Brian Thomas Jr. and Quentin Johnston. Big guy, run fast. Well, now everybody big guy and run fast. So now you have to compensate with actual knowledge and actual mental aspects of the game. And I just think that maybe he didn't get that in Chicago or get a fair shake in Chicago. They only just now brought weapons in there the past year with DJ Moore. And DJ Moore had a really good season with him. But Justin Fields, didn't have a very great season himself.
Yeah. So I think overall that both him and Russell Wilson are not great quarterbacks, right? But I think there's more upside to Justin Fields. But I don't think the compensation is going to stop the Steelers from starting Justin Fields if that's the quarterback that's going to allow them to win games, right? Because Tomlin likes to win games. Not necessarily likes to win games, but that's what he does. He wins games, right? And so I just think that at the end of the day, they're going to start the better quarterback that's going to help them win games. And if they see more of Justin Fields when there's game time, even if it's preseason, and they see him having more bad decision making, things like that, then Russell Wilson's going to start majority of the games. But I think at the end of the day, it's just going to be whoever's going to get them in the best position to win games.
Yeah.
The other thing is too is Justin Fields, you may not think super highly of him, but he's better than what they rolled out there last year at quarterback.
Totally.
And worst case, dude can take a 80-yard run to the house.
If
the
defense
doesn't
do that.
So I don't know. And Arthur Smith too, is the OC there in Pittsburgh. He got some of the best play out of Ryan Tannehill that Tannehill ever got in his career.
Yep.
Obviously the Atlanta stint
put together
didn't
a
work
run
out
game
super well. So if there is a situation for Justin Fields to be competent, I think this might be the one for him. I'm not fully back in on Justin Fields yet, but I am open to the possibility that he starts some games and does well, at least for fantasy. He's always been good for fantasy when he's on the field just because he runs the ball so much. But
that's the actual NFL quarterback stuff.
Yeah.
Unfortunately for Roman Wilson, again, of the Pittsburgh Steelers, he goes down with that injury, and it looks like he was really stepping into I think Tomlin can stop that. I think that Arthur might just need somebody above him to tell him what to do and who gets the ball. And I think Arthur was maybe a little bit too smart for his own good. But anyway, Roman Wilson was kind of getting into that wide receiver 2 role. Then he goes down with the injury. They said he really started to pop with the pads came on. That sounds, like a typical Steelers thing. Once the pads came on, all of a sudden the guy just shows up. He wasn't really there in OTAs and things along those lines when it was more the mental aspect of it. I always think of the Steelers as tough run, grinded out kind of team. And Roman Wilson coming from Michigan is a fan of blocking defensive backs. I can guarantee you that. He has no problem putting his nose in somebody's chest. There's the reception perception stuff on him. I pulled for us. It's not really that great.
I think overall, Roman
Wilson
Wilson is an okay. Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. He's an okay wide receiver, but he plays really hard, and I think that's what like people like about him. And so I think, and he's fast, and so there's going to be opportunity for him in Pittsburgh, but I think it's unfortunate that he got injured because he needed to kind of show out in training camp for him to secure that wide receiver too. There isn't really anybody outside of George Pickens that's good, other than like Freiermuth is good, but obviously he's a tight end. But I just think, I think Roman Wilson will be fine this year.
It's his job when he's healthy, because looking at their depth chart, it's Van Jefferson, Calvin Austin, Scotty Miller, Quez Watkins. Like, stop me if any of those names scare you, right? Like, eventually Roman Wilson's going to come in and he's gonna play. Now, whether he can play the guitar or not is a different story, but he should be able to get back on the field. The concerning thing though, he has like that ankle sprain, right? And it sounds like they have to ease him back into the training camp, and he should be ready to go for the start of the season. So I would expect kind of a slower start for him. If he does start to pop, it's probably going to be later, like kind of maybe more like late October, before you start to see what Roman Wilson can do. So keep that in mind. If you have him on your rosters and he starts out kind of crappy, don't panic and sell him just because he's working back from an injury. So give him a little bit.
And I think I think where people got him as well is like, you don't expect him to be
late second per week,
great right away, right? And so I think for me, I figured, okay, he's going to be maybe a solid flex play middle of the end of the season, and so if he could really secure that wide receiver 2 spot, I think he could be a pretty solid flex play for you.
I have a ton of Roman Wilson, so I'm hopeful he's good.
It's not even my Michigan hate with him. He's just got average in all the metrics. And I think the volume would be really hard to come by in the Pittsburgh offense for him, because Pickens is supposed to be this target monster. Freiermuth is supposed to be a target monster. You have Najee and Jalen Warren, and we know that Pittsburgh loves to run the ball, so he'll have to be really effective with the touches he does get.
Fair.
It's possible how fast he is.
It is. Yeah, it is possible. Totally possible.
He had that profile at Michigan too, where he really produced that senior season. And if you look like the first 4 games of last year, he lit it up, and then he kind of was pretty quiet.
Tell me the opponents. Tell me the opponents.
Well, exactly. If you know anything about Michigan football, they don't play anybody until their conference schedule. But then he did pop in the college football playoffs as well. So there's that.
He had a pretty sweet save on a JJ McCarthy. Or wait, no, JJ McCarthy maybe caught the backwards pass from him. I can't remember who did it, but
okay.
It was McCarthy. Anyway, yes. You guys ready to get out of here?
Yeah, man. Let's do it. Football tomorrow. We're going to be in Canton.
Let's go.
In 2 weeks?
2 weeks.
2 weeks.
2 weeks. See you guys bright and early Friday morning.
Let's go.
Yeah, buddy.
All right. Peace out. Thanks for listening.